Original films are doing so good right now, and I think that just really speaks to the fact that we don't want AI stories, we want original things with fresh faces and diverse storytelling.
Welcome to Bitch Talk. I'm your host, Erin.
And I'm co-host Ange, aka Captain Party.
2026 brings us into our 13th year of podcasting, and we're proud to be here. Thank you to our followers and longtime listeners for voting us Best of the Bay Best Podcast for 3 years in a row, and to SF Film for adding us to the respected list of essential SF winners.
If this is your first time listening, where the hell have you been? But better late than never. We're like if the rap group Salt and Peppa met the show Grace and Frankie and had a baby. And if you don't understand what that means, ask Jeeves. And now, on with the show. Clink! All right, Bitch Talkers, we are here at Frameline 50, celebrating a documentary about one of the most fun events that happens in San Francisco. It's called Hunky Jesus. We're sitting down with the director, Jennifer Crute. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you bitches.
So for those of our listeners who have not been to Hunky Jesus, will you please describe your documentary for us?
Okay, well, Hunky Jesus is an event that takes place in San Francisco on Easter Sunday, and it has since the mid-90s. It's put on by the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, and they are, a group of queer nuns. So it's a really kind of an outrageous burlesque show in Dolores Park that attracts like 10 to 15,000 people from the Bay Area and beyond. And it culminates in, as you might expect, a Hunky Jesus sort of pageant contest. And there's also a Foxy Mary contest. So we covered that quite extensively with the multi-camera setup. So you're live there with them doing the event and being there with all of the Hunky Jesuses, but at the same time, it's interwoven with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence's history, which, they were born here in 1979. And now they're a global phenomenon all over the world. And while a lot of people think they mock nuns, they actually do the service that nuns do, while, shining a light on the hypocrisy of organized religion and particularly Catholicism. But this is not an anti-religious film. So it's a film about radical joy and community, and inclusiveness and blasphemous spirituality.
Ooh.
Well, I'm going to let
That's a shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Blasphemous spirituality. Anyways.
Anne's just going to tackle all the religious stuff I already know. But Jennifer, I just read an article where you were quoted, I think it was Mission Local, because this was the 30th year of Hunky Jesus. Congrats to them. But you wanted to really shine a light on the displacement of kind of counterculture in San Francisco with this documentary. So can you talk about that? Because I love watching this and I love going to Hunky Jesus, and it reminds me of what makes San Francisco amazing and unique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Bay Area. I was born in Berkeley, grew up mostly in Marin County, and a big part of my childhood was in West Marin in the 70s and 80s. And so I grew up with kind of hippie parents who really exposed me to the counterculture. And then most of my adult life, I've lived in San Francisco. So that's been a pretty long time, over 3 decades. And I've seen the counterculture and artists in general kind of diminish. Now, there's still a big presence here, I want to say, because people slam San Francisco a lot, and I don't want to do that. I think we still have that spirit, and clearly, as long as the sisters are here, showing us the way, then I'm going to be here. But yeah, we've seen this increase in the tech industry, which has, really changed the pricing for people to be able to live here. And I mean, I've had so many friends that had to leave and go somewhere else. So while we don't address that directly in the film, I just wanted to show a joyous explosion of creativity in the film, reclaiming San Francisco and showing, what fun that can be. This is one of the rare performance activist groups. There's still the mime troupe and stuff, but in 70s and even into the 80s, there were more, and people think they're going to find that on Haight Street, so the tourists go.
Yeah, no.
It's not quite it, but it was such an important event in our history that all came here, that people still really identify the city with it. And I hope when people come here from out of town that they can find a little of that, and they certainly can at Hunky Jesus. If they don't see it elsewhere, if they don't find it downtown or wherever, they will find it at Hunky Jesus. So yeah, just really reclaiming that, and a little tired of the doom spiral narrative. So
Thank you.
Just hello, joy in San Francisco is here, and we want to keep the artists and weirdos and cool people that we have.
It's a free event.
Yep.
It's safe. It's never felt like it's free in more ways than one, right? Like you don't have to pay to get there, but you're just like, this is what freedom looks like. This is what church should feel like. I grew up going to Catholic school my whole life, Catholic schoolgirl till all throughout high school. And you're not free. You're meant to be a lemming. And imagination is definitely not fostered, in those kinds of circles. So the idea that people would think that this is a mockery or some sort of negative environment, it's the opposite. And I think it's because it's run by people who know what it's really like to be discriminated and to be ostracized. So they really know. So on the flip side, they really know how to welcome you and make you feel like you belong.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Sisters is a pretty big group, and the San Francisco house is pretty large. I think there's at least 60 members here. And then there, just to give you a sense, there's Russian River, there's Sacramento, there's Fresno, Los Angeles. So they're all over. But just to give you a sense that there's even more than that, of course. And, many of them as queer people were really disenfranchised from their religions that they may have grown up with and had comfort from. And, once they were out, or they may have just felt like they needed to leave because of the, the rules and, the morality. And, we're inundated with the religious right. And I mistakenly, I was someone who did think that the Sisters were somewhat mocking. I mean, they are somewhat, it's more holding a mirror, to the hypocrisy, like I said, but I didn't realize how spiritual they are and how they are reclaiming. I mean, I had a sense that there was religious trauma there, that a lot of these people had gone through religious trauma, probably in their youth, and some even conversion therapy, sadly. So imagine that trauma. But now they do it their way, and they can be who they are, and it's even a bigger day of self-expression. But because, let me circle back to what I was saying, because of in the news what Catholicism and Christianity looks like, I kind of fell for that's really what that is, because I didn't grow up in that type of religion, was in more of a weird psychic cult scene. But anyway, that's
that's your other documentary.
Yes, please. We can dive into that.
That's not Christianity at all. We have two clergy members in this film, both tolerate the Sisters. may have some mixed feelings about, the portrayal of Jesus and some of the sisters' antics, but tolerate it and support the First Amendment and also see that there is service being done by the sisters. So I learned a lot, about, well, not only religious trauma, but just that the sisters really are a spiritual group, and that Christianity can be a beautiful thing if you are, following Jesus and helping others and, helping the disenfranchised and, not thinking about yourself first.
Mm.
A lot of the film goes through like one day in the life of Hunky Jesus, which I appreciated because we've always shown up a little later and the park is full. Like we're standing on the sidewalk part, like that's going through the park. But can you talk about not only just you shooting a day in the life of Hunky Jesus, but also for you, what were some surprises in terms of their production? And I can't remember his name, but I love him. The guy
who's been running it since the beginning.
he's a sister, like he should be a sister or a saint, but I love him. I feel him.
His name is Jimmy Strano.
Thank you, Jimmy. Yes.
Yeah. And Jimmy actually has finally retired. I think, we filmed in 2023. And I think he retired the following year, but then came back and then now retired again. It was something like that.
Yeah,
it's so hard to retire when you produce this event.
Just like Jesus, he died, he came back.
You need a break, quick break.
Yeah.
And then you come back. But yeah, now, unlike Jesus, Jimmy has retired. But I think is planning to be at the Castro screening. And we'll finally get to see himself in action behind the stage, which, in a live event, a lot of activity does go on behind the stage. And, while he did sometimes get a little tense, a little anxious and emotional about, moving the show along, he gets it going. He got it going. He keeps it together. And if it weren't for that, they'd be meandering on, into the night. And, they have that park until 4. And so you got to be done by then. But, I was just overwhelmed by the joy of the crowd, as one always is there, but then to be really taking it in filmically, cinematically. We had, many cameras. I think it was about 8, and one had a jib arm. So you really get that live event feel. I wanted it to be really highly produced looking. And so, you really get the show. And then the audience is such a big character. They're a character. There's, they come there. It's really, everybody's participating because they're wearing, what they're, they're expressing themselves just as much as the Jesuses are. So we get a great look at all the cool people in the audience and on stage and then behind the stage. So you get to see the Jesuses lining up and how they get onto the stage and
the props,
time lapse,
many props.
Yes. And so I'm not sure about surprise. It was a very intense day. I had never done a shoot where there were so many cameras. So I have to say I was a little nervous, a little intimidated at the beginning, pretending not to be. But once we started, it was so much fun. And, obviously it takes a village and the village people who are the crew, they, they did a great job. So, it was all of us, a great crew, great cinematographers, the unit directors, obviously there's a lot of people going around to capture those audience members, get some interviews with them, get some interviews with the Jesuses. And follow Jimmy and all of that. So, I wouldn't have wanted to do it any other way.
Mm-hmm. No, I would imagine the hardest part is having to cut that down because it's literal eye candy everywhere you look. Everyone is hilarious, witty, the best costumes you've ever seen. So like figuring out who to cut out, I would imagine, is the hardest part after all that with 8 cameras going around.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we got a lot in, I would say. And as you know, I think I saw something behind you that you have to kill your babies, right? You have to kill your babies.
Oh,
yeah.
So,
Yes.
there it is. There it is.
Nice.
I don't even know if it's abortion because they're babies. Sorry.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, there's just parts that don't fit in for whatever reason.
Yeah.
There's moments that you can't fit in, but I think we did our best to get just amazing shots of amazing people. And, you know, like the stage show goes on from noon to 4. So, you know, we have all that. But yeah, you really have to tighten it to make an 85-minute film because you want to leave people wanting more, you know.
Right.
I can't wait till next year. That's what it left me saying.
Me too. Me too.
Thank you for finally giving Hunky Jesus its due diligence on screen. This is going to be a crazy screening at the Castro on June 26th. But before we close, we do end every interview with something we call This Bitch. And it is our chance for our guests to shed a light on something that's bringing you joy or throw shade at something that's pissing you off. So, Jennifer, what is your This Bitch of the moment?
I can name names.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course.
We love it. Name a name, Jennifer. Name a name.
Oh my goodness. I mean, joy, I am really getting from Hunky Jesus. Is it fair to say that at this moment? I'm just really, I mean, there's a lot of things to throw shade on, and I almost don't want to name those names. You know, I'm trying to avoid news. Let's see. Although I am thinking, I mean, I'm enjoying watching Hunky Jesus, the response to it, and people resonating and sharing their stories. You know, sometimes just obviously with me or with the sisters. I was sainted. I was canonized by the sisters at the premiere, which brings me nothing but joy. It was a surprise, and I couldn't imagine anything better ever in my life. And I'm going to cheat, but I'm Jennifer H. Christ, the sacred cinematic scribe of drag deities and sexy saviors. So that has brought me so much joy.
Another side note I wanted to say is, if you didn't want us to think Jesus was hunky, why is he shirtless all the time? Like, come on, with that
abs,
that long hair, the abs. As a prepubescent, what are we supposed to think?
Yeah, a twink.
Yes,
it's totally a twink.
100%. Yeah. So, you know, just food for thought. Anyways, thank you so much, Jennifer Crute, director of Hunky Jesus, which is screening at Frameline on June 26th at the Castro. It's going to be a party. Everybody's got to go. It's going to be so much fun. Thank you for this film. Thank you for spreading joy. And it's an honor to be in your presence, Sister Jennifer H. Christ. Or is that what we call you?
Saint. I can't say I'm a sister.
Saint Jennifer H. Christ.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I love talking to you.
Same.
All right, Bitch Talk. We are really excited to bring you a conversation about a film that we've been chasing since Sundance. It is a queer coming-of-age horror film. It's called Leviticus, and we're sitting down today with the director/writer, Adrian Chiarella, and the star of the film, Joe Bird. Welcome to Bitch Talk.
No, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Adrian, yes, again, we were so excited to see this film. We love a horror film. We love a gay horror film. But this is your first feature. So can you talk about that and then also casting Joe?
Yeah, I mean, first feature, it's very, very scary going into this. I'd done some shorts, I'd done some TV. I remember the very first short film I did, people told me, like I got into it a little later, and so I had friends who'd made a few shorts already, and they said, when you make your shorts, like really try bold ideas, because you may never get to try a bold idea again. And so I really tried out a lot of different ways of like shooting scenes and different things you could get actors to do. So by the time I was making this feature, I was willing to just push things a little further, try that kooky bit of coverage that no one else would have done for a scene, and just really get into what I was trying to say with each moment.
And casting Joe.
Joe was in Talk to Me, obviously, but he was such a little kid in that movie. So and while I was working on the script, I saw that movie and thought he was impressive, but just didn't make the connection. And then I saw his audition, and it's so hard to cast actual teenagers to play teenagers, because I think some young actors have maybe had a little too much training and they get really self-conscious and try to do sort of big toothpaste commercial acting. But Joe was just so real and so natural, and I just felt like I was meeting this kid when I was watching his self-tape. And then his chemistry with Stacey Clausen, our other lead actor, was that was just undeniable, and that was a really, really important part of this film. So so I knew very early that this was the right decision for us.
Agreed. Yeah. So I do want to turn to you, Joe, because obviously after Talk to Me and now with your performance in Leviticus, you really are cementing your legacy in the horror genre. Really powerful performance. So can you talk about acting in films where it's just as emotional as it is physical?
Yeah, I think, I mean, what is so great about Leviticus is that it does kind of touch on these teenage boys expressing their feelings through violence, especially kind of at the start of the film where they're, just wrestling and tugging on the floor. And I think that just speaks on the kind of... Because, I mean, in this film, what we really wanted to kind of also display is that throughout this film, these boys, really mature emotionally, and... I think that, towards the end of the film, these boys make a decision to, live in hope and not in fear. And I think that what's so great about that is that, these horrifying things do happen, and it just kind of reflects, the world. The horrifying things happen, terrible things, like it's just, all this shit will happen. But at the end of the day, we as people, our part in this world we can do is just to be positive and to try to be hopeful. And I think hopefully, people can take that message.
I was just thinking there literally is sunlight at the end of the film. No spoilers, really, but there is.
There's sunlight and music.
Yes, sunlight and music. That's all I'll say. Yes,
either.
yes. But I want to go back to the opening scene, which I don't want to spoil, and chef's kiss to opening horror scene. Can you talk a little bit about it without giving too much away?
Well, originally it wasn't in the early drafts of the script. I had just so focused on the central relationship between these two characters, but then people said, you've got this whole first act where there's just no horror at all. And then I thought, okay, well, what if we just do a little horror movie intro, and what would it be, and how could I make it unique, and what's the film really about? What's the horror in this movie really about? It's about desire, it's about sexuality. How do we see that? How do we see someone interacting with this monster, but not give too much of the game away? And then it became about finding the location. I had originally set that in like a locker room, but a particular kind of locker room that doesn't exist anymore, where you had like a communal shower with a sort of low privacy wall. But in the age we live in, you don't really have that anymore. Everything's all sort of like in sort of very separate stalls. We searched all over the state of Victoria where we shot this film to find that, and then we didn't, but then we found this amazing pool in central Melbourne that has this sort of rinse-off shower with a wall there. And we thought, let's just change the character a little bit and change the circumstance a little bit. And, sometimes when you just react to those sorts of things and you evolve and you let the process really sort of take over, and you're very open to ideas, you can come up with something sort of bigger and more cinematic.
Yeah.
And then adding on that as well, I just really want to praise Tiala Bullock in that scene, because
she's an amazing
amazing actress. And I remember we actually got to have the privilege of watching her audition, and it was just so magnetic and amazing. And because the thing is, I think what's really important important about that scene, she obviously sets the tone for the rest of the film, but also it's the first time that we see a character interacting with this thing we have no idea about. And, you know, that kind of, I think her performance there really, you know, sets it up for everyone else. So yeah, I just really want to highlight that.
And a very big ask of an actor to do that performance in the
Yeah.
shower in terms of what she's doing before the attack happens.
You know,
She was
so vulnerable
great.
performance, and yeah, I just want to highlight that. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It sucks you in right away.
Yeah, right,
Yeah, just
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of like the first Scream, the opening scene
Literally
of that.
and figuratively,
I'm like,
yeah.
I'm horny, I'm scared, I don't know what's happening. Anyways, speaking of horny, I really appreciate the biblical references. It's called Leviticus. As a queer kid growing up in a Catholic school, all girls school, the guilt, the shame, it really comes across so beautifully. I want to reference one line that the mother says to her son, who's Joe here: "We need fear, it's how we survive."
Right.
That encapsulates perfectly my experience. Can you elaborate on the storyline? And it feels personal.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, the thing about this film is we sort of dig into this idea of fear. What is fear? It's something biological. It's in all of us. You know, it's like what we inherited from animals. It's how we sort of outrun our predators, is that we let this fear mechanism take over. And I think it's something that humans have kind of, you know, they've kind of used to coerce each other. And so whether that's, you know, it was to sort of take the idea away from just being specifically about religion and being about the broader idea of how do we as people in society use fear as a tactic to scare other people away from certain things that we don't agree with or believe in. So that was a really big part of it. Yeah, that's really where it came from. I think that was the thing that I wanted to explore. Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to wrap.
We do,
Okay.
unfortunately. We can keep
I
going.
know, but
I'm like,
really
now that
enjoying
we're
this.
talking about
I
that.
know. But you'll enjoy this, I think.
Okay.
So we end every Bitch Talk episode with something called This Bitch. So you're either shining a light on something or throwing shade on something that's pissing you off. So I'm going to start with Joe. Who's your This Bitch right now, off the top of your head?
Wait, am I no, I pick a praise or a diss.
Yes.
Okay, this bitch, like, original films are doing so good right now, and I think that just really speaks to the fact that we don't want AI stories. We want original things with fresh faces and diverse storytelling. Yeah. That's this bitch we want.
Joe, get it.
First thing to come. This bitch, I just celebrated my husband and I, we just celebrated our wedding anniversary, which I always thought would be a cheesy thing, but I have to say, after 8 years, it feels really nice to kind of mark time like that. So this bitch to anniversaries, generally. Anniversaries of anything, just always take the time to just go, yeah, I've been doing this thing, or this has happened, this sort of thing happened to me at a particular point, and it's here. So,
And let's have an Asian Chiarella summer.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. Yes. Also, this bitch for Frameline 50, speaking of anniversaries.
Yeah, exactly.
Having Leviticus
50
as part
years.
of their 50th anniversary, the longest running, oldest, biggest queer festival
Also, like,
in
just
the world.
in like, you know, with all these other films, like Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, like,
I know,
it's
can't
just
wait.
like so great to like be among these like other queer, amazing projects with amazing people attached, and yeah, it just is such an honor.
Well, thank you both so much for being on Bitch Talk. Hopefully this is the beginning of many conversations that we have with y'all about your work in the future. Again, we've been sitting down with director and writer Adrian Chiarella and the star Joe Bird of the film Leviticus. You can see it in theaters now. Run, don't walk.
Thank you.
Don't walk.
Bitch.
Thanks for joining us on today's show. You can find more information about this episode in our show notes.
If you're missing us, you can visit us at bitchtalkpodcast.com to sign up for our newsletter and buy us a cup of coffee.
Did you know we're also on the radio? You can find us at bff.fm.
And lastly, rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. All the cool bitches are doing it.